So first of all, thanks everybody for attending. I have Tina from RevenueCat with me. We're going to talk a little bit about Bravo Studio and RevenueCat to sort of help everyone understand how they fit together and what are the benefits of it. I'm just going to do a quick intro to myself, and then I will hand over to Tina to talk about the RevenueCat side of things, and then I'll come back and show how both RevenueCat and Bravo Studio can fit together. So I'm Toby Oliver, the CEO of Bravo Studio, and for those that don't know, Bravo Studio is basically a platform to help you build a mobile application and manage it, and sort of help you do all the tricky parts of mobile application development, so you can just focus on the design and connecting to the APIs that you need. And a while back, we did integration with RevenueCat to help us really open up the possibilities of doing in-app purchasing, because that was a lot of people were wanting that. It's a really hard thing to do normally, and RevenueCat have done some quite interesting things around this. So on that part, I'm going to hand over to Tina to talk about the RevenueCat, and we can then sort of dive into how it works. So Tina.
Yeah, cool. Let me kick this off by sharing my screen actually. So quick introduction of myself. Hi, I'm Tina. I'm a product manager here at RevenueCat. And today on the agenda, what I have is just a quick intro to RevenueCat, why in-app purchases are important, such as going through some values, advantages, success stories. Then I'll also like to wrap it all up by highlighting the benefits of using RevenueCat and then passing it off back into Toby. So to kick us off as an introduction, RevenueCat is a subscription platform built for mobile apps, and it is the platform for managing in-app purchases and subscription analytics. So RevenueCat really becomes like a real-time subscription status source of truth for every customer across all app stores and across all devices. We provide a set of tools for building, managing, and growing subscription revenue. And this allows developers to easily deploy cross-platform subscriptions, for example, across Apple App Store, Google Play Store, can easily manage products and subscribers, and analyze customer data. So why in-app purchases? Like, why are in-app purchases so important for really taking your app to the next level? To kind of provide a high-level overview, in-app purchases are an important way for app developers to really monetize their apps and also generate, importantly, recurring revenue. They allow customers to purchase additional content or features within an app, which can also provide a more immersive and engaging experience for all customers on your platform. In-app purchases can help app developers also build a more loyal customer base by offering either exclusive content or features that, again, can only be accessed through in-app purchases. In addition, in-app purchases can also provide like a recurring revenue stream to work out of, to especially allow app developers to continue developing, to continue improving their apps. And also in-app purchases, due to this kind of recurring revenue stream, it also allows to have a more predictable business model for your business, for your app, and for you to keep track of. So if you are an app with a digital business model, there are realistically kind of two routes you can take to generate revenue. You can monetize by ads, or you can monetize by in-app purchases. Maximizing revenue is typically a combination of both. For example, a lot of apps kind of use this hybrid model where, for example, they have a freemium tier, which is ad supported, and another tier for additional features to unlock within the app. Some of the largest apps, for example, Facebook and Instagram, have some of the best ad monetization in the business. They ballpark of around like $30 per user based on ad revenue alone. However, a combination of ads and in-app purchases offer more tools to really optimize the value delivered to customers and revenue that you make based on the value that you are delivering. So some companies, for example, Twitter Blue and Snap, who actually recently, not too long ago, recently started charging a subscription. And these really big social media companies realized that ads definitely are like a great default way to monetize. However, there are users who are willing to pay more if you are delivering like more value to them. So kind of like a key prop to really keep in mind here is that it's kind of not just about like removing ads, but it's also about adding value for the customer. Typically, I feel like people aren't really that incentivized to really pay for no ads. If you take, for example, like any like streaming services where kind of like ad-free tiers are not really that much more expensive than like the regular tier. Some are kind of just like a mere like $3 difference. However, in-app purchases really provide a straightforward business model for you. It feels like a value exchange between you and the customer. And it also makes it very clear and transparent that you really just like pay for what you get. And next, other than if you want to sell something in the app, you actually have to use in-app purchases. There are also very clear advantages of using in-app purchases as well. So first, highlighting over the customer benefits is that it is very super low friction. People, for the most part, already have their credit cards or some form of payment method set up like on their devices. And therefore, buying in-app purchases honestly literally just like a few taps of a button. The other day, I also bought a subscription and I just had to click on like my phone's lock screen and it kind of just instantly purchased it. And also, even for in-app subscriptions, customers have a way to manage all their subscriptions in very just like one central location on their phone. Versus like today, if you have a subscription with like the New York Times directly, you actually have to get on the phone with them to cancel your subscription, which adds friction to that process. However, comparing this with in-app purchases, canceling just happens on the phone. And again, it's always just like a few taps of a button away. Another customer benefit is that it is also a high user trust, that customers aren't providing like their payment information to just like a random third party, but it is safe. For example, with Apple and Google, they know that nothing is going to happen. And even if there is an issue with their subscription, customers know that they can just very easily get a refund in that case as well. So it also builds high user trust, and again, linking back into it being low friction. And a key business benefit that I want to highlight, and which is actually like a huge advantage of using in-app purchases, is the product availability of once you have a product out on your app. Your product is immediately available in 100 plus countries. You don't have to deal with kind of the nuances of like local currencies, compliances, and taxes, which can be a big headache, especially for indie developers or for any smaller companies. And something that's actually truly amazing to say out loud is the app stores represent one of the biggest consumer marketplaces in history. That you have the ability to really put your product out there on a supermarket with several billion customers who can just easily grab your product off of the shelf, and they can even grab it from across the world from where you're like currently developing your app. And that's just pretty astonishing just to all in of itself. And lastly, I would like to kind of discuss just like some success stories of in-app purchases. In-app purchases have been a very successful way for many app developers to just like monetize their apps and generate revenue. So take, for example, Slopes. It is a ski tracking app that was actually originally developed by an indie developer as just like a side project. Upon first launching in 2013, their business model was a paid upfront app selling for $5. And in the first 2 years, they made around about 10,000 K in revenue. And after 2 years of launching the app, they actually switched to subscriptions and recently announced on our Pub Club podcast that they hit 1 million in annual recurring revenue. And again, that is recurring revenue. So it is very predictable of like your business model as well, how much you're kind of expected to make for the next year. Next, Visco started off by actually selling filters in their app, and they transitioned into selling subscriptions about a couple of years ago, which is kind of like a huge unlock for them as well to really provide more value to their customers, to be able to bundle more features into a package. And again, also brings in a stream of recurring revenue to help continue developing the app. And even some of like the biggest of the big, such as Tinder and Duolingo, are also really good examples that the economic opportunity really created in this market space, where they actually make most of their revenue from in-app purchases directly. So as to highlight them, they are like a mobile-based app free to download, but with combination with subscriptions and also non-subscription purchases, they generate hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. And Tinder, as an example, they experimented with multiple business models. I think today they have like 3 different subscription tiers along with purchases for Boost and Super Like, which again also generates majority of the revenue as well. And although most indie apps, I guess, won't really have a complex model like Tinder, however, the in-app purchase business model really scales with you over time as you grow, and especially as you introduce more products and subscriptions into your app. So next, I would just like to quickly highlight just the benefits of using RevenueCat. So this diagram can be intimidating, especially on the right-hand side or left-hand side. The main problem that we solve is working with the various app stores, such as Apple App Store and Google Play Store. Each store really has their own like nuances and edge cases to handle. And as a result of that, it can get very difficult to actually get like accurate revenue data from the app stores. So what RevenueCat provides is a single source of truth that will help track subscription events real time and the ability to forward these events into marketing tools such as Intercom, attribution providers such as AppsFlyer, and so on and so forth. It is cross-platform out of the box, and you save time and complexity on supporting one to multiple platforms. At a very high level, we also provide a dashboard where you can easily manage your products from across the different stores. And one of the key features of our platform is providing metrics about your app's data through our charts. We'll give you your customers' transaction level data, so you can really see granular analytics and analyze your customers' retention, trials, conversion rates, which is particularly helpful just to measure like your business's health and also make really key business decisions as well. So that is the end of my portion. Toby, I can pass it off back to you.
There's a couple of things actually. So first of all, Ty has just made a question about, can you do a marketplace, rather than RevenueCat? And I think, and obviously Tina, you'll probably best answer this question, but I guess the difficulty with something like that is, you need to set up the offerings, right, within Google and with Apple, and then connecting to RevenueCat. So allowing your app's users to be able to sell stuff doesn't really work with this model, right? You'd have to, it's much more designed for the sort of owner of the app to monetize rather than the app's users. That's correct?
So the question when they mention marketplace, is that just referring to kind of like all products to sell, or sorry, just to clarify on that?
Yeah, I think, I think you answered this question, but my understanding was that it's basically, as in the app is a marketplace where the users of the app can sell things rather than the owner of the app selling things.
Got it. Yeah, that is, there probably is a way to set it up, but honestly, in-app purchases are kind of not really meant for that use case. For example, there like are also other apps like Cameo where they have like artists is like their own marketplace, but again, it takes a lot of nuances too, and a lot of like edge cases to really cover. But I would say it's not a very viable option for, at least for the average like developer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do some sort of like a thing, because I guess you can use in-app purchases to buy like a in-app currency, and then you could potentially within that in-app currency manage the transactions amongst the users of the app, and then at some point monetize it back again. But it's not going to be a straightforward exercise, right? One of the questions that I had actually about the RevenueCat, I mean, obviously, what are the sort of differences do you see between Google and Apple? And obviously there are different ways of actually implementing it, but are there sort of nuances that people need to be aware of when they're trying to set things up? I mean, are there sort of tips and tricks for like dealing with the different parties, or how they kind of ultimately get you the money?
Yeah, so there's definitely, at least like from the technical perspective too, that for Apple and Google, they also display data also very differently. For example, Apple, when you get a receipt from them, you can kind of see all historical transactions. Google, you cannot, you can only see that sold transaction. There's also kind of different nuances there based on like the sequence of events that happen between Apple and Google. So for the example of if you were to like subscribe, unsubscribe, and then repurchase it again later. There's different flows that people of app stores go through. And kind of like the key benefit of RevenueCat there is that we also like abstract away a lot of the platform differences for you to kind of have a singular experience using just like one API to kind of handle both of the platforms. Again, you can dive in as deep as you want into Apple and Google, but there's always going to be complexities between how like the backend is set up, how you listen to notifications, and kind of how you get the app working to really just like unlock the products for your customers who purchase.
Got it. Makes sense. And one of the things that people often ask is, how do, if the end user decides that they don't want the in-app purchase, they ask for a refund, how does that process work with RevenueCat? Because I guess that's treated differently between Google and Apple as well.
Yeah, so any refunds, again, also kind of directly goes to which like service you bought it from. So for Google, you can actually reach out to the developer directly. Google has a set of APIs, endpoints that you can actually just call and refund the customer. Also, Google support is also there. For Apple, they are a bit stricter on that. You can only actually contact Apple support. However, the process of getting a refund through these support kind of like avenues is definitely very fast. I've gotten a refund in a day before because I accidentally bought a subscription. And on the RevenueCat side, when a refund occurs, we'll also get a server notification from the store so we can update it on our end as well. So everything will be seamless. We'll also still get the updates from the customer.
Okay, so just going through to setup now. So to set up with RevenueCat, I think, if correct if I'm wrong, but what happens is you set up your offerings for both Google and Apple in their own platforms, and then you kind of you set up within RevenueCat and kind of connect the two together, right? So you kind of connect up the offerings you've got on each platform within RevenueCat. So RevenueCat understands what's available as an offering, and that's kind of the main connection, right, between the different things. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Okay, well, what I'm just going to do now briefly is go through a little bit around how then we go from having your offerings in Google and Apple and in RevenueCat to actually then connect it through your app. So let me just share my screen. I think I'm going to share this one. So can you see my screen at the moment? Probably, Tina, I'll ask you actually, can you see my screen? I've got Figma on the left and I've got Bravo on the right. Can you see that?
Yep. I also see your Zoom settings on the right-hand side too.
Yes, I'm going to have to, let me get rid of those. There we go. Okay, so just to help people go through this, what we do is once and I'll just show you here, we've actually got some really detailed instructions in Bravo how this all works. I'm just scrolling through here about how you set up in-app purchase. But as I mentioned previously, and it's kind of at the bottom of this, you set up your offerings in Google and in Apple, exactly what products and the prices and things. And then you then connect them, set it up in RevenueCat. And once you've done that, then what you can do, and I'm just going to go jump on the right side, we've got Bravo here. Under the integrations of this, under payments, we've got RevenueCat. You put in your API key for RevenueCat to enable that connection to happen, and so that basically enables Bravo to connect to RevenueCat and see and do all that whole in-app purchase process. Once you put that key in, then you can leverage the normal way that Bravo works, which is to use the sort of annotations in Figma. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to briefly talk through how that works using this. This is an example app of ours about recipes. So we've built this application in Figma. For people that don't know Bravo too well, Bravo will allow you to take your existing design in Figma and convert that directly into a native application. And obviously with the ability of connecting then directly to RevenueCat, you can even then start to actually put in-app purchases in there. And actually the reason why I chose this app is quite an interesting one. We're seeing a number of people building applications where they want to kind of monetize their content. There's a lot of people out there, we're seeing meditation apps, personal training, who've got some really good content, they've got an app form, but actually one of the challenges, obviously, as Tina mentioned, normally the payment process is a bit annoying on mobile, and in-app purchasing really makes that really reduces that friction. So being able to have your content in an application that you can very easily monetize to your users is a huge win. And this is a very simple application we've built. I'll just show you broadly here. It's simply a case of showing a bunch of recipes, and what we do is we put certain recipes behind a firewall, so a paywall, sorry. So there's basically the paywall here, and as we work with Bravo, there's only a few tags you need for to switch on the revenue content. You basically can say that there's certain pages require a purchase to actually be viewed, so basically the pages aren't accessed unless you've got that. And also we can make certain content conditionally visible on whether or not it's a paid subscriber or not. And so what will happen is Bravo will do the query to RevenueCat to check it if this user is a subscriber or not, and if they are, they can see this extra content. So I mean, you can see it here. We've got a few things about actually making the purchase, which would kick off the in-app purchase process on the different platforms, and if that's is successful, we redirect to the success page. If it fails, we redirect to the failure page, and then obviously if it's successful, then we can access all of the content with the tags highlighting the ones that have said that they're available for that particular level of user. You can see here, let me just show you that in more detail on the information page. Let me just go through to scrolling. Yeah, these are the tags we've got. Actually doing the purchase, saying which page have the access control, requiring the purchase, and the condition of visibility. And really, obviously the paywall page as well, but really it's only a small number of tags that you need to do to add to your application to basically enable the RevenueCat integration. And really what we found was that RevenueCat was the best sort of partner to do this, rather than having to do all the complexity of the implementation, as Tina mentioned, across the two different platforms. By just doing that connection and using these tags, you can convert your application from Figma very, very fast. And actually, you don't even need a very complex backend. You know, it's possible using this. You could actually have your content in something like Airtable, and then just use the paywalls to actually monetize that. So you know, it really does open up the opportunity for content creators to be able to monetize their content very, very effectively. RevenueCat's a very, very cool way of getting this, and it's not been easy to do, and that's why a lot of people don't do it, because it is such a pain to get it set up across the two different platforms. So I think the combination of Bravo and RevenueCat is a really good one for those people that want to unlock the value of their content. Okay, so I just did a quick demo. I mean, obviously we can delve into more detail in another session perhaps, but I just wanted to see, for the people that are listening, are there any questions we can answer? We've obviously picked up a couple already, but if there's anything else that we can, you know, either Tina or myself can answer, happy to you know, answer those questions while people are online. This is a good question from Bill. How easy is it to troubleshoot a development problem when setting up a Bravo RevenueCat connection? Tina, what's the troubleshooting like on the RevenueCat side? So, you know, assuming that you know, there's a problem with the payments and things, how is that seen in RevenueCat? How do people kind of troubleshoot these kind of issues?
Yeah, so on RevenueCat, actually, so for example, if you're using RevenueCat like natively through kind of like installing the SDK in your app, we also have like a set of debug logs that you can view to kind of see like different errors within the app as well. But again, it's also very important to kind of like test your app first in Sandbox before releasing it into production, to kind of do like a wide net of like casting any issues that you may see. Even other like troubleshooting as well. RevenueCat, we have a community, and as well as a troubleshooting doc. If there are any particular issues that you're seeing, our support team is always there to help answer. Other developers are also there to help answer you as well. That there's always going to be like a set of logs that you can either follow from either end, or kind of just seeing like exactly where the issue is. Even for customers, most of the time, if it's like an issue with Apple or Google directly, it really does happen that they'll also see an error message pop up on their screen while using the app. So even that, having those logs sent over is really a key way to kind of like a pinpoint of kind of where exactly is the issue occurring within your app. Like, is it occurring through the in-app purchase flow, or is it occurring through like another section of your app that maybe is not really so much like connected to RevenueCat in that case?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one advantage of the Bravo RevenueCat integration is it's kind of already done and connected up properly. So yeah, that knowing that it's not that initial phase of is everything working between the two properly is kind of done. But I mean, what sort of issues do you normally see, once things are in production and they're generally working well? I mean, do certain payment failures create odd errors and logs, or is normally that coming back through the sort of standard reporting you have in the RevenueCat backend?
Yeah, so usually after launching, you don't really see any errors unless the app stores are having issues like processing a receipt, which again should show in the app stores. Typically, a lot of errors that we see are actually errors with like configurations. So whether or not you've like activated your products correctly within like App Store Connect or in the billing library. But most of the time, a lot of issues that we do see here being reported by other customers really just pinpoints down to like their configuration that something was missing. In Apple App Store, you do have to sign like a couple of forms. So a lot of times if you don't keep those up to date, your products are also going to stop working as well. So just kind of like key things to really keep up with the health of like your app.
Okay, makes sense. Hopefully that answered your question, Bill. Another question from Rajiv. Do we need to have a Stripe integration to accept payment, or is that part of RevenueCat? Well, not really, right? You don't need Stripe at all. This is one of the beauties of this. Tina, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, so Stripe is, I guess, like more used for, I guess, like web payments. With RevenueCat, we also have a Stripe integration as well, if you do want to offer like web subscriptions. However, just like something to note there is honestly working with web is not really worth it until you hit about like $1 million of revenue. Until then, I would honestly say like don't really bother with the web. In order to accept like web payments, for example, through Stripe, you have to keep track of your revenue in each like state and country that you'll be operating under. You have to keep track of what laws you fall under, and also you yourself have to make sure that you're being compliant as well. Even with like a couple percentage of saving between like using the App Store and web, I honestly feel like the headache is not really worth it, especially when talking about like the different conversion rates between like web and the App Store. I feel like especially at maybe like an earlier stage, there's just so many other like low-hanging fruit. And again, at a smaller stage, you definitely want to focus more on building value and also finding a scalable like marketing channel. So yeah, and even if you are ready to build like a web application, RevenueCat also scales with you in that sense that we also have a Stripe integration as well.
I guess one of the things I think Rajiv was trying to get at was that, if they're taking in at purchase payments, for the people that don't know, how does the money get to their account, right? I mean, what's happening behind the scenes is Google or Apple are actually taking the payment, right? And I believe, isn't it part of the sort of sign-up process for Google and Apple? You actually give them your account details, which is where they would forward the money to. Is that the way it works? So you don't need any sort of official accounts. They kind of do. Apple and Google kind of are the Stripe for the in-app purchasing piece, right?
Yeah, so Apple and Google are the payment processors in this case. RevenueCat is not a payment processor, which is why we also can't give refunds for subscriptions that we don't own the subscription, it's Apple and Google. So once you set up like a developer account with Google and Apple, especially to set up your products, that's also kind of where you set up like your banking information. So I know like Apple works off of like fiscal calendars, so you'll get paid like at the end of like every like fiscal month as an example. So yeah, any revenue that you do make from the apps, you'll be getting paid out directly from the app stores themselves.
Very good, awesome. Rajiv, hopefully we answered your question there. Anybody else with any other questions you'd like to answer? Nothing yet. So I guess I have one more question for you, Tina. What's next for RevenueCat? What have you got? Have you got anything on the roadmap that you can tell us about that's interesting? That's kind of that you guys are working on?
Yeah, at the moment, actually, we are looking for beta customers to kind of really highlight our supporting the next Google billing client. So Google at Google I/O, they also announced they've changed kind of way like their subscription model works. So kind of one of the, I guess, sneak peeks of what we've been working on is being able to be compatible with Google's new subscription model. So we are looking for beta customers for that. We've recently actually also had a hackathon last week where a bunch of people had some really exciting products. For example, on the dashboard, we have dark mode now. So in case you are a dark mode user, we have that availability enabled. But yeah, definitely not a lot I can share since some things are definitely a work in progress. But again, as anything gets announced, it would be posted on our blog post as well as our email subscription list.
Very good. And what's this new Google payments? When is that being sort of officially pushed out there? Is it going to be in tandem with the existing setup, or are they trying to transition everybody over to it at some point in time?
Yeah, I think for Google, it gets pretty hard to, I guess, like deprecate the entire model that existed. They are at the moment attempting to kind of push more people towards that route. However, with the current products that you do have set up, it is backwards compatible at the moment. Okay. So any legacy products will still continue to work. And I know that especially Google ever so often, they require you to use like a latest version of the billing client. However, they do also give developers time to upgrade and kind of figure out how it works into their app.
And what's the benefit of the new system? Is there a sort of certain, is it a benefit for Google, or is it extra things for the users for the new system?
Yeah, I guess it's a benefit of having really things like just outlined more clearly. So, and also for Google, they've also introduced like prepaid plans, especially for like emerging markets where actually like buying subscriptions is like more or less banned due to like certain laws. So they're also being more compliant to other countries, so they can just like prepay for a subscription and also top up as well. So a combination of both for developers and kind of organizing their products, and also for the end customers, so they still have access into kind of these like different streams of like apps available.
Awesome. Okay, that's very helpful. Very good. Well, I think no one else has asked any more questions. I've asked all my questions, so I think we're good. So Tina, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate you giving your input and helping. Hopefully, all our viewers have learned a bit more about how all this fits together, and we'll both have more customers very soon who are using the platforms.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, and thanks to everyone for attending. Hopefully, we'll see you guys at the next session we have. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye-bye.